Welcome to Lair of the Alchemist, where we discuss all things heavy metal and hard rock. On today's episode, 5 of the coolest frontmen in hard rock and heavy metal. The other day I was thinking about how there's certain frontmen that just have a certain quality to them, a certain aura or an X factor, a certain coolness. And I thought it would be fun to list some of them. Now, what does it mean to be cool? Well, that's something that's hard to put into words, but you kind of know it when you see it. It's a certain vibe or aura around somebody. When that person walks into a room, everybody's heads turn, everybody notices them. They don't need to be loud or aggressive people. In fact, they usually exude a certain kind of quiet confidence. They have their own style, their own fashion sense, the way they dress, the way they talk is unique. So, maybe if you were to think about some people in the world of acting, like Clint Eastwood in his cowboy movies, Sean Connery as James Bond, or if we go back in the world of entertainment, how about Frank Sinatra? Or in my opinion, the original rock and roll frontman, the original cool rock and roll frontman, the guy that started that whole thing, Elvis Presley. Now, if you only know Elvis from his movies and his later era with the jumpsuits and stuff like that, you got to go back and you got to look up some of his early stuff. Because he rocks hard and he has a certain, he has a coolness to him with his stage presence and the way he sang and the way he moved around that was just awesome. And in my opinion, he's the guy that sort of laid the blueprint for what being a cool frontman was all about. All right, so these are singers that we're not ranking them on their singing style or how great of a singer they are, although I think all these people that I picked are great singers and they have their own unique qualities of singing. But really, this is just more about the coolness factor. And I put them in order, but honestly, all these guys, their level of coolness is just off the charts. But I had to put it in some kind of order. So here we go. Number 5, Jimi Hendrix. The way he dressed, the way he spoke, the way he stood on stage, he just oozed coolness. I love listening to interviews with Jimi Hendrix because a simple question like, how would you describe your music, leads him into an answer where he's talking about gypsies and rainbows and the moon and the stars and the sun. He had this humbleness to him. There's an interview with him, I think, on Dick Cavett, where Dick's laying all this praise on him, and he just sort of smiles and shrugs it off, like, he's just himself. He just has this way he stood on stage, and even his stage banter was just awesomely cool. There's a clip of him in Stockholm with the original Experience, where they come out on stage and he's tuning up his guitar and he walks up to the microphone and he goes, we haven't played in a long time, so we're just going to play some oldies but baddies, he goes. And then they play a couple songs and they're getting ready to play another song, I think The Wind Cries Mary. And he goes, I'd like to dedicate this to this girl I was with last night. I don't remember her name, but she had flowers in her hair. Just great, like late 60s Woodstock slang and just everything, man. Jimmy's so cool. I truly believe that Jimi was from another planet and his spaceship just stopped by planet Earth for 27 years and he's now flew away and he's out in some other universe still playing his guitar. All right, number 4. Jim Morrison. The leather pants, the belt, the snakeskin boots, the way he stood at the microphone. The guy just had coolness all over him. He's another guy that whenever he was interviewed, he had sort of this poetic way of speaking. He was a poet, and you could just tell he had that sort of poet mindset to him. The way he talks about seeing an accident on the side of a road and the spirit of an Indian shaman entered him. He became the Lizard King. He's another guy that if we all found out that he was still alive somewhere hidden in France writing poetry, would any of us be surprised? I wouldn't. His lyrics and his songs, the way he sang, he was just awesome. All right, here we go. Number 3 from AC/DC, Bon Scott. When Bon sang, "If you're looking for trouble, I'm the man to see," you believed him. His lyrics, the partying, the women, the rowdiness, it didn't seem like he was making any of that up. You believed every word he said, and you believed that he lived every word that he said. His stage presence with the jean jacket and the way he stood with the microphone, or when he would take his shirt off, the tattoos and everything. I was once recording something in a studio, and we were talking about somebody. I'm like, yeah, that guy's really cool. And the guy that owned the studio came in. He goes, "You want to know who the coolest guy I ever met was?" It's like, "Yeah, sure." And he goes, "Bon Scott from AC/DC." And I said, "Whoa, you met Bon Scott from AC/DC?" And he goes, "I didn't meet Bon." He goes, "I knew Bon." I said, "I roadied on the Highway to Hell tour, and one of my jobs was to sit with Bon in his dressing room and walk him to and from the stage every night." And he goes, after every show, Bon would be down at the pub drinking with the road crew, drinking with the fans. He had no rock star pretentiousness to him. He was a totally down-to-earth guy, and he just lived the rock and roll lifestyle 24/7. Bon Scott. All right, now the next 2, well, this was tough. I could have flipped these guys around. Like I said, all these people, just coolness levels off the chart. But maybe it's the Irish in me. But I always loved Phil Lynott and thought he was a super cool guy. His stage presence, his body language, the way he spoke, the lyrics in his song, this storytelling feel to a lot of his lyrics. There's a video of he's another guy. His fashion sense was just fantastic. He was just so cool. There's a video of his solo when he had a solo album, and the song is called Small Town, and it's filmed in Ireland on a famous street in Dublin. And there's a scene in the video where he's walking down the street, and just the way he walks is so cool. And all these people around, and all eyes are on Phil, and he's walking through that place like he owns that town. And at that point in time, he might as well have owned that town. And he sort of at one point looks over and gives a little sly grin and a wink at some of the ladies. You just knew that Phil was a total ladies' man with his style and just the way he was. He oozed coolness. So Phil Lynott, my number 2 pick. All right, number 1. I can't think of anybody who exemplifies what rock and roll, what heavy metal is about more than this next guy. And there wasn't anything about this guy that seemed phony. He seemed 100% genuine, 100% real. Maybe one of the most respected guys in hard rock and heavy metal. Lemmy from Motorhead. Lemmy, much like Bon Scott, is a guy that you just believed everything about him. He wasn't a caricature. He didn't just dress up like this when he was on stage or for interviews. This is who Lemmy was 24/7. His partying and his rock and roll lifestyle is the stuff of absolute legends. There's a scene in The Decline of Western Civilization, the metal years, where he's talking about Ozzy Osbourne and Ozzy's drinking problem, and he goes, well, when Ozzy drinks, Ozzy doesn't like himself, so Ozzy has a drinking problem. When I drink, I like myself, so I don't have a drinking problem. The gospel according to Lemmy. It doesn't get any cooler than him. You see those pictures of him down at the Rainbow at his slot machine. He's just a guy that when he walked down the street, you just knew that everybody saw him, knew he was rock and roll, knew he was heavy metal, knew he was the real deal. Lemmy tells stories about dropping acid with Jimi Hendrix, Little Richard, partying with Little Richard. He's, like he said in one interview, he's lived the life of 1,000 men. And Lemmy, he rock and rolled. He kept that true until the very end. He was on the road. Even when he was sick, he still went out there. He was still delivering it. And Lemmy was never a guy that achieved any kind of massive financial success or super red carpet style stardom. But you ask anybody in hard rock, in heavy metal, and they have the utmost respect for Lemmy Kilmister, the true definition of a legend. All right, so there you go. Those are 5 of, in my opinion, some of the coolest frontmen in hard rock and heavy metal. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know some of your picks. There are no right or wrong answers here. It's just a fun video. So let me know who you think are some really cool frontmen in heavy metal and hard rock. And make sure you hit like and subscribe. And until we see you again, make sure to stay heavy and stay metal.